Hi guys, today I'm going to give you 5 dietary changes that can help literally anyone to help improve their health and hormones. So we are gonna get started by saying the best thing that you can do, and this isn't one of the tips, this is just generally speaking. When you are trying to get healthier, lose weight, have more energy, balance your hormones, is to eat less processed food and more real whole food. What does that mean? That means food that comes from the earth, that is something that could be a plant, that is something that could be a grain, that is something that could be an animal source, but it comes from the earth. That means it has not been processed and added with tons of sugars and dyes and chemicals to become this thing that's actually not even really food, that's in a box that has the shelf life of like 3 years. Your body has such a harder time processing food that is not real food, that has all of these chemicals and sweeteners and sugar and junk, that is what we call processed food. That is because your body knows what to do with real food. We were designed as humans to evolve over time to eat this real food. Our body breaks it down easier. We absorb the nutrients faster, and it also doesn't cause us to have all of these crazy cravings and intense addictive properties where we feel like we need to keep going back for more. There are actually people out there called food scientists who are, their whole job is designed around keeping you addicted to processed food. So whether it is soda or a bag of chips or bars, candy, all of those things have these people who their job is designed to make these foods hyper palatable so that you keep wanting to go back for more. And that means that even if they have to add things that aren't good for your health to make the food look more appetizing or taste more appetizing, they're gonna do that because they want you to keep buying. Whereas real agriculture, like farmers, they don't have incentive to do that. They're really just making, they're farming the food, they're raising the food, and they don't have an incentive to market it to you like, let's say, a Pop-Tart does, or a protein bar does, or a candy bar does. And that's not to say that a protein bar is bad for you. Sometimes we need to have food that is accessible and on the go when we're really in a bind. But overall, the whole point to start this video is that you really want to be eating real whole food, something that hasn't been processed. So let's start with tip number 1. Tip number 1 is I want you to be getting more fiber in your diet. In fact, 87% of Americans are not getting enough fiber in their diet. That's right. Most people. So what does that mean? Most people are also walking around, 1 in 3 Americans are walking around dealing with quote unquote irritable bowel syndrome, which is a catch-all term for bloating, constipation, diarrhea. Well, why are those people having those symptoms? Oftentimes, and not all the time, but oftentimes it's because they're not getting enough fiber in their diet, which is such an easy fix. Fiber feeds those good microbes in your gut, which are responsible for so many different things, from your immune health to your digestive health, the nutrient absorption that you're able to have, your mood, how overwhelmed and anxious you feel. There are so many jobs and roles those little microbes play. They even play a big role in your metabolic health and how fast not only are you absorbing nutrients, but are you using those nutrients. And so we really want to feed those good microbes in our gut. Another thing that is really important when it comes to fiber, you're helping your body to eliminate waste. You're helping your body to push out waste, to get rid of toxins, to get rid of other hormones that it's not using. In fact, estrogen actually is recirculated in the bloodstream if there is not enough fiber to push it out. And that's how some people become estrogen dominant. So we really need to make sure that we are getting enough fiber, not only for our digestive health and for us feeling bloated and us being regular, but also for our hormonal health and not being estrogen dominant, having regular cycles, feeling good, not feeling like we have all this water retention and we're super hyper emotional and irritable. Like, it's crazy, but fiber can impact it all the way down to that micro of a level. The next thing that you want to think about when it comes to your diet and making changes with your diet, with incorporating some more of these whole foods, is adding more healthy fats. So that can be anything from nuts and seeds to nut butters to coconut oil to avocados to healthy fish that has a lot of fat like salmon. There's so many different ways that you can incorporate healthy fat into your diet. Now, why is this important? One, hormones are created from cholesterol, and omega-3s are so important to this process. So you want to make sure that you are getting enough healthy fat, that you have the proper synthesis and regulation of your hormones. The next thing is that when it comes to inflammation, chronic inflammation can actually be something that disrupts your hormones. But when we have the right balance of healthy fats can actually help to lower levels of inflammation in the body. Next, you want to make sure that you're getting those healthy fats in for insulin sensitivity. So this is particularly important for my people out there who are trying to lose weight, or women out there with PCOS, because insulin is going to help to regulate your blood sugar better. And if our insulin is resistant, we are going to have a much harder time getting our cycles to be regulated if we have PCOS, or to lose weight if we are overweight and we're trying to shed some of those pounds off. And so what the healthy fats are going to do is help keep you feeling satiated and fuller for longer. And that is going to help to regulate your insulin sensitivity, helping to balance your hormone. And the last thing you want to think about when it comes to why you're incorporating these healthy fats is because your brain health. And as somebody who struggled for years with an eating disorder and barely ate any fat at all because I thought being low fat was going to be what helped me lose weight, which was not the case, it is so critical for your brain health. So I would feel brain fog all the time when I was eating low fat. I felt like I couldn't think well, I couldn't remember, I couldn't concentrate, I couldn't focus on anything for an extended period of time. And your brain requires healthy fats to be able to have the neurotransmitters that you need to be able to focus and concentrate. And so if you want to be able to sit there and get your work done and sit there and get a task done, or be able to feel organized and not overwhelmed, having these healthy fats in your diet are really critical for your brain health. The next thing you're really going to want to consider, and this one is really the hardest tip for anyone that I've worked with in the past, because they often become this like fabric. They're either like woven into our social fabric, or it can feel really hard because you are reliant on something like caffeine to be able to get through the day, to get things done. It equates to your worth because you are so heavily dependent on productivity as something that makes you feel valuable. And so lowering the amounts of caffeine and alcohol in your diet can feel really challenging because there are so many little factors that play into it beyond just it being about your diet. And so when we think about alcohol, there are a few things here that make it important. One is alcohol and caffeine too, to be honest, really disrupt your sleep. And sleep is critical for being able to have regulated circadian rhythms, regulated cortisol levels, and regulated hormones. And so when you're not sleeping, when you're sleeping less than 7 to 8 hours a night and it's not quality sleep, you're gonna miss out. And so if you're drinking caffeine after, let's say 2 p.m., or you're drinking alcohol right before bed, your sleep is naturally, especially the quality, going to decline. Then you want to think about your liver function. And so both of these things require your liver to work extra hard to be able to detoxify them. And so, yeah, 1 cup of coffee is fine. But if you're somebody like me who is reliant on like 4 cups of coffee a day, and then you're, up at night, you've got a little bit of the jitters, you feel a little anxious, so then you use 2 glasses of wine to relax, and you do that every single day, your liver is working extra hard to eliminate not only those toxins, but then the excess hormones, the toxins from your products, the toxins from the environment, all of these things. And it becomes a burden where it's not functioning as well as it could be if you didn't have those substances that were in the caffeine and alcohol. From there, we really want to think about adrenal dysregulation and blood sugar imbalance. And so caffeine and alcohol both impact the adrenals and impact your blood sugar. So coffee obviously is going to give your body a little boost of cortisol. And if you're somebody that is already stressed and overwhelmed and anxious and rushed, having that coffee is just adding on to the burden of cortisol, which can cause you to feel even more of those symptoms throughout the day. Same thing with alcohol, because of the burden that it has, the inflammation that it creates, the burden that it has on the liver, and the effect that it has on your sleep. It's also causing your cortisol levels to rise because your body is trying to eliminate it and get rid of it. And so if you want to shift your hormones, you really want to be thinking about lowering your intake. I'm not saying to cut it out completely, but lowering your intake of caffeine and alcohol, because the last thing that it can do is impact your blood sugar levels, which impacts your insulin sensitivity, which, as we all know, can lead to things like what we talked about, PCOS, estrogen dominance, those types of things. And so we really want your blood sugar to be nice and stable. And when you are having coffee on an empty stomach, that's a spike and a crash to your blood sugar. When you are having alcohol, not only are you drinking the alcohol, but then you're not as likely to make very good choices with your food. Your inhibitions go down, your sleep is not good. And so all of those things on top of the alcohol causing a blood sugar spike, and then you're having it with a sugary juice or a cocktail mixer, all of those things are going to cause your blood sugar to go up and then come right back down, and you're not going to feel very good. And so really thinking about reducing those things, maybe having 1 to 2 drinks a week if you're a drinker, instead of drinking every single night. Having 1 cup of coffee, or switching to a green tea, a matcha, an herbal tea, to help you and your body process and eliminate toxins more effectively and efficiently. So the next tip is you want to make sure that you're getting enough protein. And I will say this is definitely not the case for a lot of women who I first start working with. And so why is this important? Well, first, like the nerdy version of this is you want to make sure you're getting enough protein, because protein is the building blocks of your hormones. Actually, proteins are broken down into amino acids, which are the building blocks of those proteins. So we need those amino acids to be able to build our hormones. And then from there, some of our hormones need protein as carriers to be transmitted through our blood. So if our brain is telling our ovaries to do something, or our brain is telling our insulin to do something, some of those hormones need protein to be able to be carried, to be able to facilitate and do the job that they need to do, to be able to do the function that they are set out to do. So we have to have protein for those things. From there, you need to have protein for weight management and for muscle health. Your lean muscle is a huge influencer of your ability to be able to easily maintain or lose weight. If you don't have lean muscle, not only are you going to be a more inflamed person, but also at the same time, you're going to have a much harder time losing weight, because muscle burns 3 times more calories than a pound of fat. So 1 pound of muscle burns 3 times more calories than 1 pound of fat. So you are effectively at rest burning more calories the more lean muscle that you have. And then the last thing, again, you guys know me, it always comes back to your blood sugar. Protein-rich food have a much less intense effect on your blood sugar than, let's say, carbohydrate-rich foods. That doesn't mean don't eat carbohydrates, but when you eat something that is, let's say, carbohydrate only, your body needs much more insulin to be able to effectively use those carbs, send them in to be used for energy. Whereas protein is going to have much less of that spike in your blood sugar levels than a carbohydrate would. So it's going to keep that blood sugar level nice and steady. So combining the protein with the carb and the fat and the fiber versus eating the carbohydrate alone. The other thing about protein when it comes to your blood sugar is it's one of those macronutrients, just like fat, that's going to keep you feeling satiated. It's going to keep you feeling fuller longer. So if you eat just a bagel, you're probably going to be hungry again in an hour or 2, versus if you eat a bagel with 3 or 4 scrambled eggs, you're going to feel satiated for a whole lot longer. And then the last thing that I would recommend to anyone who wants to improve their hormonal health is to eat more cruciferous vegetables. So I know we talked about fiber. Ideally, you should be getting 30 to 35 grams of fiber a day, but you also want to make sure that a lot of that fiber is coming from cruciferous vegetables. Now, why is that important? With cruciferous vegetables, you are getting antioxidants, which help to reduce oxidative stress. You're getting a ton of phytochemicals, which have a ton of different nutrients in them, and you are effectively helping to balance your estrogen levels in comparison and relative to all of your other hormones, especially if you're somebody who deals with estrogen dominance, because cruciferous vegetables have something called indole-3 carbinol in them, and that converts to something called diindolylmethane, which helps the body to detoxify from excess estrogen. So when we think about all of this, you want to just remember those 5 things. You want to be getting enough protein. So my recommendation is anywhere, depending on your weight, from 70 to 100 grams of protein a day. You want to be getting enough fat, so about 40 to 60 grams of fat a day. You want to be getting enough fiber, so 30 to 35 grams of fiber a day. And you want to be getting enough cruciferous vegetables, so making sure some of that fiber is coming from those things like broccoli, cauliflower, kale, and then you want to be reducing your caffeine and alcohol if you want to improve your hormone health and feel the best that you can in your body.